وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, all right. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. You can wait to turn it on, Subhan. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other lesson first, and then when the other students roll in, then we'll start with the tafsir lesson. Okay. Bismillah. What I want you guys to do is first off have your cameras on. I want you to actually let me not show you this yet to make it a bit easier for you guys. Do they still have Paint on Microsoft? Okay. So I haven't opened up Paint in forever. Let's see how this goes. Okay, what I would like you guys to do is the following. I want you, in front of you in your Tajweed notes, I want you to create a very long neck. Okay. Today you guys get to be blessed with my artistry skills. Allahu Akbar. Get ready. Don't feel bad for me and say, oh, it's because of the paint he's not doing well. No, this is probably what it would look like, whether it was on paint or on a canvas or whatever it was. Okay. What I want you to do is divide the throat into three sections, the top of your throat, the middle of your throat, and the bottom of your throat, right? In the bottom of your throat, I want you to write the following letters. Here's Alif, here's Hamza, and here is Ha. Oh, I'm forgetting which way Ha is written. How is the Ha written by itself? Okay, like that. Okay, Alif, Hamza, Ha. What I want you to put afterwards is Ain and Ha. And then what I want you to put at the top one is Ghain and Kha. After you have made your beautiful drawing, after you have done that, I want you to look at the letters, place your finger on the letter as you're writing it, as you've written it out, and I want you to go to that place of your throat. So we're going to go to Alif Hamza Ha. I want you to place your finger over there and say Alif Hamza Ha. Go ahead. Hamza Ha. Then we're going to go up to the middle of the throat and go Ain Ha. Ain Ha. Good. Top of the throat. Ghain Kha. Ghain Kha. Good. Let's produce the sounds that are made with each of these all the way through. So if we go all the way down to the Alif, Alif and Hamza, the reason why we wrote those down, wait a minute. The Hamza I wrote backwards. That's why everything got thrown off for me. Sorry. The Hamza is written all messed up. That's not the direction the Hamza is supposed to be written. I was like, why am I not? As soon as I did the Hamza wrong, it messed everything up for me. Wait, what's that? Hamza is not written in that direction. I think it is. Nope. It's written in this direction. No, what? I'm even more confused now. Let me put up the Quran. Hold on, man. I'm so thrown off right now. Uh, what? That was right the first time? Just my Hamza looks so bad that I can't even tell if it's the right direction anymore. Okay. A'udhu billah from that Hamza. Okay. Um, So I want you to go through all these vowel marks. Alif and Hamza, exact same thing. The difference is that depending on the script and which school of thought kind of you're looking at with the Alif and the Hamza, they will describe Alif as the sound of elongation and Hamza as the pronounced Alif sound, right? Because if you look at in the Madani Mus'haf, the Uthmani script, the Madani Mus'haf that's over here, anytime you pronounce anytime you pronounce that, you will see the Hamza there. Otherwise, there will be no Hamza there, right? I'm trying to think, is there any exception to this? Would you mind closing the door, guys? Nope. Soon as the alif is vowelized, this Hamza right here in the middle, this absolutely will be present. So if you want to, right over here, that this one over here is for your stretches, right? Your stretches. Like if you say me, not me, obviously, but if you say Malik yawmiddin, wala dallin, this alif is used for your stretches in our script. This Hamza, right? This Hamza is used for the vowelized version of the alif. So for you guys, you might be like, well, alif Hamza, same thing. Well, actually, no, they call it differently depending on what's going on. Okay. With that said, let's go ahead and make the vowel sounds produced with each of these letters. So both of these we'll take together. A, I, U. Go ahead, guys. A, I, U. No tension, no difficulty. People learning tajweed for the first time and they're like overdoing it. It's probably because they're like just scared of ayn and they're just like, I'm just waiting for ayn to eventually show up. So I'm going, I'm just kind of like overdoing the alif. All you have to do is tell them to say the word apple, right? You wouldn't say apple, you just say apple, right? You just calm apple, ant, all these things produce the perfect sound that you need, right? Ha, let's go to ha, he, hu, just like you would say the word happy, the way you would say heat, the way you would say hoop, right? Simple, ha, he, hu. So these are the easiest letters to pronounce, right? And for at least for us, maybe there's certain people with certain dialects and certain languages that make these letters difficult for them. But for us, we have a whole bunch of English words we can utilize. So again, a, I, u, ha, he, hu. Everybody. Now I want you to focus on the tanween sound, the doubling sound. I do not want your tanween sound to disappear and become Don't start with un. Remember, don't start un. You're starting with a like almost like the word and, right? And just remove the like or an apple, right? So but less English aside to more Arabicized. So an in un. Go ahead. An in un. Next one. Han in un. Now we have a I u. Go to the middle. Go ahead, yeah. A I u. Next one we have is ha he hu. This is the one that's more difficult for people to pronounce. How do we do this? Remember, how do you fog your glasses? You don't go ha ha, you go. So if you can do, all you have to do is go a, I, u, ha, he, hu. Again. Good. Now I want to use the doubling sound, the an in un. An, in, un. Go ahead. An, in, un. Next we have han, hin, hun. Good. Finally, we have our gha and kha. You have to be pretty hydrated to do these, or else you will bust something up in the top of your vocals. Gha, so let's go. Gha, ri, ru. Next, we have kha, khi, hu. Then we have with the fathatain and kasratain and dhammatain, ghan, ghin, ghun. Next we have khan, khin, khun. Now, if we put a sukoon in all of these letters, so what we're going to do is we're going to put an alif. Let me not do that. Oh God, what happened? Alif with a fatha, alif with a kasra, and alif with a dhamma. And every one of these letters will come afterwards and we'll put a sukoon. So how do you pronounce an alif or a hamza with a sukoon? with a fatha before it, it would sound like like ma'kul, right? That's meme. But right now we're just going to use the alif as our placeholder, okay? So alif fatha would go I, u. Don't shortcut the first sound and go it, u. Get the clear u sound. A, I, u. Go ahead. U. Next for ha, this is going to be like a stereo sighing sound. With ha becomes e, ooh. Go ahead, try. E, ooh. Okay. Alif with the ain becomes ah. So don't go I don't just like let the ain overcome. Go ahead. Ear. Not Don't switch the sound. Ear. Maintain the E sound. Ear. Again. Getting close. Or. Your ayn is overcoming the first part. The needs to, so when you say the first time, and when you say the second time, they should sound exactly the same. Or. 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 Go ahead. Or. Or. Okay. Alif with the ha now. Go ahead. Ah. Ih. Ih. Ooh. Good. Alif with the gha now. Al. Good. So when you hear most folks recite mal, fix mal for me. Meme is happy, gha is awesome. How do you fix mal? Mel. Excellent. Want to try, Dominic? Mel. Very good. So al. Il. Go ahead, Kesra. Il. Ul. Now with the kha. Akh. Like akhi, right? Ich. Uh. Very good. Okay. I want you all. I'm going to put this in the chat. This is a pretty nice breakdown of all of your letters and the places of pronunciation. Oh, did I switch the screen share? Hold on a second. For online students, we're going to look at this. I want you to memorize this. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to knock out the rest of our, what's it called? Our letters by next class. So what have we gone over so far? We've gone over the letters of the throat. We've completed them. Alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. So repeat that for me really quickly. Alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Go. Alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Again. Alif, hamza, ha. Repeat. Alif, hamza, ha, ain, ha, ghain, kha. Okay. What we have left is, after we pass the throat, right next to the uvula, right here, we have our qaf, which is the furthest back, right? Then we have our kaf. Now we've entered the territory of the inside of the mouth. Say jim, sheen, ya. Jim, sheen, ya. See where your tongue is kind of like in the same place when you say jim, sheen, ya? Say jasha, ya. Say ji, shi, yi. Now we're speaking Chinese. That was messed up. So that gets us canceled now in modern day. Back in the day, that sounds like, doesn't sound like Arabic anymore. We're saying ji, shi, yi. Ju, shu, yu. Go ahead. Now, see, look, I don't know what you might have ordered at a restaurant. I don't know what's going on. At this point, you could have been ordering like a whole bunch of dishes at this point. I don't know. So you're seeing where your tongue is kind of like in the exact same place. That sound over there is articulating in that area, right? Now, if we go to ra, na, ra, na, ra and na, you're seeing that everything has to do now with your hard palate and this top area. Your tongue is a bit active, less active for certain letters. If we say, for example, Say ja, sha, ya, la, or just say all these together. So ja, sha, ya, ra, na, la. Say them in order from here. Go ahead. Ja, sha, ya, ra, na, la. You see how your tongue is working like almost like, down that way? Fa and da and tha, they're behind the teeth. We haven't, I think I haven't taught these ones to you yet, but we already did sa, za, sa. We already did va, tha, tha, right? And then we did our wa, ma, fa, ba. And then gunna, we'll talk about that later. But and then bod, obviously, did I tell you we were talking about bod, weren't we? Yeah, we talked about bod last class.
I missed previous class.
So I don't think we even did it on Friday, did we? I can't even remember certain things. Okay, so we'll talk about that, but at least you have these ones and then the front few already taken care of. And we're going to cover the rest of them. So I want you to just identify, I want you to practice reading them from the bottom all the way up or from the top down, doesn't really matter. I just want you to notice as you're articulating them where this place is pointing out. Obviously, this is the teeth. Looks like very scary teeth, but yes, this is the teeth over here. You have this is supposed to be behind the teeth, and now you're working in the hard palate zone, and this is called like jawf. This is called like the opening of the mouth, just like the hollowness of the mouth. Same thing over here until you get to the uvula, and then you get your letters of the throat. Okay, we're not going to focus on this. We're going to shift over to Suratul Asr, and we're going to go through that quite quickly because I need to leave at 9:50 to make an appointment. So, yes, if you could start with the recording. So what I would like you to do, actually perfect, when I leave at 9:50, from 9:50 until 10:15, until your class, almost with this, yeah. Until your class, what I would like you guys to do is practice your letters. It's okay, I'll do this. You can do that.
Okay.
Practice your letters, and you're going to practice the place of articulation. So I've already sent it in the chat. If one of you guys could please from online take that link and send it into our WhatsApp. Okay, I'm just gonna open up the notes for Surah Al-Asr.
No more Chinese jokes. We're clear.
Okay, where are we at?
Wait, can you talk?
Bismillah, Bismillah.
Oh, it's not working.
Oh, it's not plugged in. There we go. Check now. Bismillah.
Yeah, it's working.
Good. Okay. Would you mind actually one of y'all for now just maybe sit over there, Subhan, or something, so that I can like kind of
Yeah.
tilt my head a bit in different places. Or both of y'all just move over, or if you want to move this over a bit as well. Okay, let me open up.
Kind of like the same.
Okay, that's fine. Do you want to put any of the?
Yeah.
If you
Last time I think I put a little too close. Yeah, I still my snack.
I'm just going to open it up on Quran.com just for the sake of time and go ahead and start inshallah ta'ala. Instead of opening up the notes, just because it's just translation anyway. For online, you guys really won't need the screen share. I'm just going over Quran.com. So you already have your notes version in front of you with Dr. Khattab's translation. And I'm going to go ahead and start from there, inshallah ta'ala. So I'm going to give you the running translation. If you guys recall, we already did that on Friday. But I will. Now we'll go into a more in-depth version of study of Surah Al-Asr, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Alrighty. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek protection, I seek nearness in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I seek stability and I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from shaitan the accursed. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the abundantly merciful, compassionate, and caring to all of creation. And He is Ar-Rahim. He's especially those qualities and characteristics for the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this surah off with an qasam, with an oath. He's swearing by something. What is it that he's swearing by? He's swearing by time, the creation of time. Wal asr. The root letters that we have over here for wal asr are ain, sad, and ra. We have waqt, dahr. There's various words in the Arabic language that can be used for time, but what is specific about the word asr? What do we know about the word asr? What's a common thing that we know? The most common thing as believers about asr? The salat time, right? The prayer time. Typically, Asr time, especially in winter months and especially in, when Ramadan's happening, as soon as you hit Asr, you're like, all right, I'm in the home stretch now, right? The energy is the most depleted when you've been fasting. You're kind of like just, the day is wound down and you're just kind of, like, all right, I'm ready to just get home and wrap things up. With that root letter Ain Sa Ra also comes the word asir in the Arabic language. Ta'sir is to juice something. Asir is juice, right? So think about when you squeeze or you literally juice something, you squeeze out all the benefit of it. So asr is referring to a time that is constantly depleting, it is being drained, and you have that imagery there with asr. Also, the Arabs use Asr as a way of talking about someone's era or their time. So you would say Asrul Risala, the age or the time frame of prophethood, right? Asrul Nubuwa or Asrul Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Or you would say Asru Donald Trump or something, right? Like this is like the time or the ruling period of a certain person. So scholars have, I believe, I remember reading a tafsir and seeing over 12 different interpretations, and some might even put it as even more interpretations of the word Asr itself. Some scholars said that it's referring to the Asr prayer itself. Some scholars said no, it's referring to the greatest time that ever was, which was the time of Asr al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some said, no, actually, it's referring to time in its totality. Well, all of these things are true because if you're talking about time in its totality, every single element can be broken down in there, right? And that's what the majority of scholars even said, that it is talking about time in its totality. Meaning, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates something and it has a beginning and it has an end, time is now also in creation. Because time is not a creation until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates something bound by it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not bound by time. He is not bound by beginning and end. There is no beginning and end for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why for many of us, when we think about it, especially when we're younger, even now, time is a creation of Allah. Thus, Allah is not subject to time. He is not subject to a beginning or an end. He always was. Whereas everything else comes to be, right? From his will. He creates something and now it is bound. It has a beginning and it eventually will have an end or a moment where its soul is taken away and then it is, left for the rest of eternity. So when we look at this oath, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing, wal asr, what's implied over here is, I swear by time, right? So what's implied over here is, ana uqsimu, I swear by al-asr. Now, what is asr? All those different opinions apply. But what is the common theme that is laced throughout all the opinions of time? It is something, no matter how valuable, how terrible, whatever the circumstance is regarding the time that we're taking an oath by, it will have a beginning and it will have an end. It will have a point that it's at its peak, it's at its prime, and it's at the height, right? Whether it's an empire, whether it is Asr time, whether it is all of humanity and time in memoriam, it will have an end as well. So when Allah talks about depleting, fleeting time, so what is the best word you could use if you didn't have time to explain about Allah? Allah swears by fleeting time, by time and how it is fleeting and it is just running away and depleting, right? You have these words that you can utilize. You can think about the thing being juiced. Now, why do Arabs even take oaths? Why do they take oaths? And even the modern day Arabs, right? You see, if you look at like Muslims from different parts of the world, they might not use oaths as much as even modern day Arabs today. You might be playing basketball with a brother and he's like, Wallah, bro, Wallah, you fouled me, right? Why are they dropping Wallahs even when it comes to like basketball in modern day? Because it is part and parcel of the culture itself. to make qasam. Very good, Bushra, to make someone believe their words. Is there another reason why someone would take an oath or swear? Not like profanity, obviously. For emphasis, to believe, to have someone believe what they're saying. Is there anything else y'all could think of? One else is someone taking an oath or swearing
To keep a promise.
to keep a promise. Good. What else, Dominic?
I was gonna say like something similar, like when they're put into a position of leadership or power.
Very good. What are they doing? Pretty much it's like they are taking an oath that I will take care of this responsibility, right? And similar to that would be when you have to testify, right? When you have to testify, you are swearing that this is what took place. So in a courtroom. So when there's consequences on the line and you have to take an oath and say, I swear by X, Y, and Z that this is the case. Or you are not being believed, or to further your point, when someone might be a little bit doubtful about what you're saying. And then the Arabs would use an oath. Actually, there's one more. Also, when you're angry, right? I'm sure you've heard that. Maybe not you guys, right? You haven't heard it from your parents, but it's like, I swear if I get my hands on you, right? I swear if you don't shape up, right? You maybe heard that as well. So there's an oath either to threaten, an oath either to clarify and make someone believe what you're saying, maybe because they're doubting it or they're calling you a liar. Another one is to when you are testifying. And the final one is the Arabs would utilize this. And this is, you can kind of say it's still kind of in use, but not the same way that the Arabs of Quraysh did. The Arabs of Quraysh, they would utilize it in a way to capture someone's attention and gather people. So the Messenger of Allah, ﷺ, when he's commanded to now go and warn all of community and society and da'wah becomes completely public, he is told to, well, he's not told to, he goes to the mountain of Safa and he yells out, Wa sabaha, wa sabaha. I swear by the morning, I swear by the morning. And then the Arabs of the city of Mecca, they start coming up towards the mountain and coming and seeing what the Prophet ﷺ is calling to. Well, the Arabs at the time, what they used to do was that they would actually get completely naked, they would remove all their clothes, and then they would go to the top of the mountain and start calling out. Well, you see how the Prophet ﷺ utilizes the medium of the time, but uses Islamic ethics in the same time. He does not remove his clothes and go on top of these mountains. He leaves his clothes on and he goes to the top of this mountain and he calls out and he gathers the people, right? And like it's kind of strange that one of the first things that might come to their mind is, wait a minute, he's not following protocol, right? But the Prophet ﷺ is going to then call and invite. So what does that tell us? There could be different mediums out there of social media, of various platforms, but how you utilize something, if you're using it for something beneficial and you're doing it in a way that is Islamically ethical, even though if everybody else is using it unethically, un-Islamically, just because that tool is being misused does not mean it becomes haram for us, right? Unless there is more layers to it. Like an exception to this would be that the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade drinking from a particular type of like a vessel that was made from like animal skins, right? Obviously they used to create different vessels and they were very crafty and different tribes and stuff from different regions of the world, they'll create interesting things from animals and stuff like that. But he had forbade drinking from a particular animal skin. Why? Because predominantly if anybody had that particular vessel, it was used for alcohol. Right? It's the example of, imagine if like like a kindergartner pulls out a flask in the middle of class and they open it up and they're drinking from it and the teacher's just like petrified, like, what on earth are you doing, little Timmy? Why do you have a flask? It's like, what do you mean? I just have orange juice in here. It's like, okay, well, people usually don't have orange juice in flasks, right? Like that could be your orange juice in there, but we usually don't function like that in society, especially like it's coming out of like a little trench coat and he's like doing little tiny sips like that. You just don't expect it to be, not alcohol. So same way the Prophet said, I used to forbid you from drinking from that vessel, now it's okay to drink from it. Meaning the predominant usage, you as Muslims know now that when we carry around this, you're not going to be like, wait a minute, is he drinking alcohol? That's not the first thing. So imagine societally, flasks just become like a fashion, right? And everyone now is using flasks and they have like their coffee in there and they have like their water in there. And when someone sees a flask, their first thought isn't, oh my God, why does he have alcohol? It's just generic. So now using flask wouldn't be problematic. So as Muslims, using a flask would be problematic, okay? And also drinking out of like a large brown paper bag and having your drink hidden, that's also problematic. So as Muslims, don't do either of those things that would get you in a suspicious place. But if it's a medium, like for example, some like a Pierce Morgan type individual, or like someone who's like, oh no, you know what? They are our enemies and we shouldn't go have conversations with them. Well, you saw people that were very eloquent go and have conversations and absolutely put a beat down on Pierce Morgan, right? Maybe some people shouldn't go on to Pierce Morgan because they'll like literally play them like a fiddle. Other people can stand their ground and absolutely make them look foolish. So use a certain medium, even if others are kind of cautious and saying, well, wait a minute, can you execute that properly? And we've had scholars go on to shows and on conversations where they made an absolute blunder and they got absolutely decimated by the host. And it's like really respected, well-known scholars. And we're like, oh, wow, that was really not a good look for us at the end of the day. That person could have had very sincere intentions and they tried their best, but it just didn't go well. But looking at the medium and utilizing it and seeing, can I do this in a way that is befitting of it? And making sure that you have, shura, and you have the element of being able to say, what's the best way of executing it? I literally have a group of, students who are content creators on social media, and every time they think like, wait a minute, we're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. Let's ask Imam Mahdi, is this okay? So instead of them posting it and being like, hey, what do you think about this, Imam? It's like, why are you telling me afterwards, after you've gotten all the comments? Tell me beforehand if there's something problematic you think that's there. And that way, before you even put it out into the world and you have to do retractions and have to worry about all that stuff, let's figure out what you're doing. So if you have any questions, you come in that realm and you have somebody that can kind of guide you in that realm. Same thing with A&M and U of H. They'll be like, okay, well, this is kind of our policies. Is it okay if we put this on social media or put that on social media? It's very easy to just say, well, I'm going to utilize these platforms the exact same way I see successful content creators doing that. Well, successful content creators might be getting much more follows and views if they're using certain, elements and using certain things that might be problematic Islamically. But do you want to function in the realm of using Islamic ethics, or do you want to function in the realm of what will get you successful at the end of the day? That's up to each individual. Now, why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by time? You can utilize all of these reasonings thus far. We've had 4 reasonings thus far of why the Arabs used to swear, one particular to Quraysh. So now fill in the blank. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the reasons why he could be swearing by time is, what's the last one that we just mentioned? To capture the intention of the individual who is listening. Wal asr. Allah says, I swear by time. You better be thinking now, what does time have to do with the following message, right? There's one element. What else is another element we have? We have 3 more. Allah could be swearing by time because emphasis, but emphasis is broken down into a particular detail. Emphasis of what? Emphasis because?
Like the gravity of the truth of what's about to be said.
The gravity of what's about to be said, right? Bringing emphasis into it. Sure, you can put that as a category, but also because perhaps someone is not being believed that the following message is going to show up. What is the following message? Innal insana lafi khusr. Perhaps the person is not in disbelief. What do you mean every single human being is in disbelief? How could we be, I'm sorry, in loss? How could we be in loss? I'm constantly gaining financially. I'm going to sleep and my crypto and my wealth is going up and my stocks are going up. How am I in loss, right? I am just gaining and I'm winning at life. How on earth am I in loss? So you see how wal asr can be used to swear when someone is disbelieving or not fully believing the message being told. Capturing attention. Someone's not fully believing it, so you're putting emphasis, you're emphasizing that I am speaking the truth. I'm telling you absolutely this is the case. What are the other 2 reasons that we have?
When you're angry.
When someone is angry, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could be in a realm of anger, that how could it be that these individuals, they have the Prophet ﷺ in their midst. They are living in the best time possible, but yet they are still individuals who are drowning in loss because they are not coming to Iman. They are not following it up with good deeds, and they're not calling one another to good. Rather, they're doing the exact opposite. They're disbelieving, they're calling to evil, they're oppressing people, and they're further oppressing the Messenger of Allah and what's happening to the Muslims over there. So you can see an element of anger could be over there. And finally, the last one?
For a testimony.
For a testimony. Could you imagine If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, He will bring the Quran as a physical entity and it will come and say, Ya Allah, do not punish this individual because this person stayed awake reciting me. This person memorized me. This person put time in. Same thing with your sadaqah, your charity. Same thing with your fasting. They will come in I guess you don't want to say human form, but a human form could make sense. A sentient form, a form of where it's speaking and it is testifying on your behalf. You see how it's testifying for you? You're not having to speak up and saying, Ya Allah, I did this, I did this. No, your hands, your body will be testifying for you as well. Your body will be speaking on your behalf. Your actions will speak for you as well. Now imagine if time, all of time as a creation, you know how we, even in English, we have the personified version of time. We call him Father Time, right? Father Time we say is undefeated, right? LeBron's the only one who's trying to try and do something about it, but it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. You can bring Luka, you can bring anybody on your team, it's just not going to work. It's over. There's a decline. Allah swearing by time, everyone will have their peak. Some their peak is much, much larger and it's much, broader time frame. Some people, there's the civilization and their kingdom will last for a decade or two, a few years, some for a century, for literally, a millennia. But no matter what, every single entity, every single human being, everything will have its downfall. Everything will have its end. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, imagine if He brings time and asks the question, what have you seen from human beings? And time's response would be what Allah has said. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Not a single one of them could outrun, could defeat time. Every single one of them had hopes and dreams and desires that were left, still unfulfilled. They still had various things they wanted to do and achieve as human beings. You will never say at the end of your life, yep, did every single thing I wanted to do, accomplished every single thing, every single relationship that I had. It was in the best way possible. I never lost any friends. I never lost any wealth. I never lost any time. No, human beings at the end of their life will always have regret for either wanting more or that they left too many things behind or they didn't prioritize. Human beings will always have that. Whether the person passes away at the age of 10, at the age of 50, at the age of 150, human beings will be in that state. Now, innal insana lafi khusr. Let's go into that. Innal insana. Inna is, I've told you many times before, it is the removal of what? Inna is the removal of doubt. So when you translate it, you are doing izalatu shak. Translate it accordingly. I don't want to hear, certainly. I don't want to hear, verily. I don't want to hear, what's the other one? Verily, indeed.
Indeed.
Because we don't speak like that. We don't go around saying, verily, indeed, certainly the shawarma was absolute fire, right? Yeah, surely this shawarma was absolute fire. No, we don't go around saying that. So when you convey inna, regardless of what the translator has used, I want you to translate it, if it's a middle school audience, a college audience, a high school audience, in a way that sounds closer to their vernacular. What will you use? Without a question, without a doubt. Undoubtedly, unquestionably, those are a bit easier on the ears and a bit more emphatic in nature than an indeed or a surely or a verily, right? Those are just kind of like little words you just kind of throw in there just to sound eloquent. Surely human beings are. Who's Shirley? I don't know who Shirley is. There's a element of removing doubt. What does that mean? Doubt is present in the mind. That doubt could be present in the mind of a believer, a disbeliever, someone who has nothing to do with revelation. They are thinking, I am constantly winning at life. How could it be that human beings are in loss? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only says human beings or mankind, He says insan. Look at how the word insan is used and nas. I believe we talked about this a while back. The word nas, how do you translate it? People, what else? Mankind, what else? Anything else? Humanity, you could use that, talking about humankind, right? It's the category of human beings, nas. That could mean believers, disbelievers, everyone there. Insan, if it's translated by itself, if I say insanun, how would you translate insanun? Insan.
Human.
a human being, right? A human being. But now when you put alif lam on the word, innal insan, when you put alif lam on this word, if I say the word jinnun, you would translate the same way, a jinn. But if I put alif lam on the word jinn, then what that means is I'm talking about the category. So if I'm categorically talking about jinn, or if I'm categorically talking about humans, I can translate the word insan and jinn and malak. What does malak mean? Plural of malaika. Angel. I can put alif lam on the word, and what I'm talking about is the category of angels. Al malak or al insan or al jinn. I'm talking about the category of human, jinn, or angels. Does that make sense? And actually, that works with any word. If I'm talking about the category of, let's say, vehicles, I say a sayyara, right? If I say sedans, I would use a alif lam singular. If I use like SUVs in the Arabic language, alif lam singular. Even though in English we pluralize and put a S, right? Arabic, you don't do that. You don't say as-sayyarat. You just say as-sayyara. Ana uhibbu as-sayyara. I love cars. You don't pluralize it. Well, modern day Arabs, they might pluralize it, but how technically the Arabic language is supposed to function is you use the category. How do you define category in the Arabic language? The proper way, singular, alif lam. Could that mean we're talking about the human? Yes, we could be talking about the human and not categorical meaning, but that's depending on context, right? That's depending upon context. So write down alif lam with al insan and write down most of the time it's talking about the categorical translation, but it could be talking about the human. So write down the word al insan and you can write al insan equals and your two options. The human being, the individual. So we're not talking about categorical. Then we also have the option of human beings in totality, right? Human beings in general. Make sense, guys? Which one is more common? The categorical one is more common, especially in the Quran. We're not talking about outside the Quran. Now, what is the difference between using the categorical use of alif lam on al-insan versus nas? We said nas translates to humanity, mankind. Al-insan can also translate to the category, the categorical translation, human beings. But what is the rhetorical difference between using nas versus insan? Let me solve one of the problems for you. This covers the same amount of people, and this covers the same amount of people. What's the nuance difference? What do you guys think?
So this might be a complete guess, but whenever I feel like I see nas in the Quran, it's talking literally about like a human, like it would talk about an animal or a jinn or something like that. It's just
Okay.
a human, like a category of being. Where it
Versus,
says insan,
yeah.
it feels a lot more personal, almost to a level of like nafs.
I would say,
Okay, so you're saying it's more.
It feels like it holds way more depth than just nas like a person, like
Hmm.
a species. I don't know.
You have the right, you have the right logic, but the last part of it isn't being totally fulfilled. So you're telling me that Nas, it covers everyone, it doesn't seem as personalized, versus Insan seems closer like Nafs. You're almost there. You literally have almost all the things, just think a little bit of tweaking with the wording. Yes, Dominic, what do you think?
well, probably, but I would say like most of the time when I hear Nas, it's like and Nas, like Allah's
Uh-huh.
calling to mankind, and like insan is more like
What do you think?
talking about mankind.
Talking about mankind. Well, you also have ayat where Allah not just says you and nas, but you says ya you and insan. He also has that as well. So you could say that both could be utilized in that way. It's just that we definitely see ya you and nas a lot more in the Quran. That's for sure. Taha, you want to take a shot at it? Go for it.
Yeah, I think that like it's if you're talking categorically, meaning it's like you're talking to every individual. Like instead of saying like all of y'all, I'm talking to you and you and you, but all of you. That
Ahsant. Exactly. Got it. So that's pretty much it's like the less philosophical version of what you said. Subhan. It's like the more like practical version of what you were saying. So you give us the theory, he give us the practical. So nas, we're talking to everybody, but we're focused on the collective. Make sense? Insan, again, we're talking to everybody, but over here we're focused on the what? The collective or the individual? The collective or the individual?
Individual.
The individual. Because the word al-insan and an-nas, say for example, there's a room full of 100 people. If I want to talk about the collective, I say an-nas, right? And I reference everyone. If I used al-insan or nas, it still spoke about everyone. But when I said nas, the focus was on the group entity. When I used al-insan, the focus was on the individual entity, but it still covers everybody. Does that make sense? Nas and insan, the usage, you can translate them as humanity. What's a more nuanced translation of insan? I swear, or without a doubt, every single individual, all human beings, an-nas, right? Human beings, humanity, mankind, versus al-insan, without a question, every single individual, every single human being without exception. That could be some of the proposed translations of innal insana, innal insana. Then you have lafi. What can you tell me what lafi is? Take a guess. Could it be two harf jars stacked together? Lam and fi.
Yes.
If it's two harf jars stacked together, then that means lam is for ownership. You're saying for in. In English, that doesn't make any sense. So even though if your brain is saying lam and fa, two harf jars together, two harf jars and two harf nasab can never stack together anyways. A harf nasab and a harf jar can't stack together anyways. Because they both contain meanings, harf nasab and harf jar, they both contain meanings, and when you stack them together, it becomes more nonsensical. It's like two meanings that don't go together. It's like in about in, like that doesn't make sense. For in, for around, for about, it doesn't make sense, right? It's prepositions stacked together, they don't work together. This is your lam of emphasis. This is your lam of emphasis. Lafi khusrin, lafi khusrin. So you have again, oh my goodness, Latifa, are you messing with me? Surely in. She dared to put the word surely in. You guys, when you're in love with Sister Shirley, man, I'm serious. Y'all just won't leave Shirley alone. Surely in. This will be Latifa's proposed translation. Surely in human beings, surely in. Surely, surely human beings are surely in. Okay, without a question, without a doubt, every single individual absolutely is drowning in. And I feel like it becomes an emphasis, like you're drowning in emphasis in the ayah itself. It's just too much to convey in the English language. Absolutely, human beings, every single individual is drowning. Lafi khusrin. Are they the difference? Remember I told you about putting alif lam on a singular word? It can create categorical loss, meaning every single type of loss or a certain type of loss. When you don't have alif lam over here, you leave something more general and more generic. So what it becomes is, instead of they are drowning in loss, right? Just the concept of loss. If you had put alif lam, it would be, remember how we said you put alif lam on insan? It becomes a concept of human beings, the concept of jinn, the concept of angels, the concept of cars. If you put the alif lam, it would be the concept of loss. But when you don't put the alif lam, what happens is it becomes a type of loss. You see how it becomes more almost specific in nature? And you're saying it's just a type of loss. It's not that you're drowning in loss in every single realm, because Allah is trying to say you are drowning in a type of loss, which is the most important type of loss. It's the loss of iman. It's the loss of, good suhbah and good connections. You are drowning in a type of loss because someone could say, well, I'm still financially gaining. I'm still having more children. I'm still increasing in so many other ways. But Allah is saying, no matter what kind of gain you have at the end of the day, you absolutely are drowning in a type of loss unless you do the following. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up what is the keys for success to not be drowning in this loss. So by default, a human being is drowning in this loss without question. Allah has sworn by fleeting time. He took the qasam, the oath by time, and then He says every single individual is drowning in a type of loss, unless illa alladina, except for those who إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. They are individuals who have iman. There are individuals who worship and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are individuals who not only have iman, a belief system, but that belief leads them to action. And that action leads them to a level of familiarity with other believers and a level of vulnerability with other believers where when they need to be called out, they can be called out. Hopefully in a loving, caring way. And when they need to call out their brother or sister and be there for them and be able to advise them, they're there for that as well. I want to go a little bit more into the words of this portion of the ayah, but I think I might not be able to. Let's see how long it will take for me to get to my appointment. 10 minutes? Yep, I need to leave now. Okay, but I would like you guys to do now with this remaining time from 9:50 until 10:15. I want you guys to break into groups. How many folks do we have online? Guys, I need your cameras on. If you're not going to be here, no problem. At least put your cameras on so I can break you guys apart into groups. We will. Taha and Habibullah, you guys can work together. Habibullah, are you available right now to turn on your mic and camera or no? Patience. Latifa, are you available? Bushra, I need some response so I can get out of here.
Yes.
And this thing is lagging so heavily, like I can't even tell. I can
Yeah,
cut the
Habibullah, I'm available.
available. Okay, great. What I'll do is I'll put you guys into breakout rooms. Or do you know how to make breakout rooms, Subhan?